On the news, President Tinubu challenges ministers and civil servants on service delivery at cabinet retreat. France to return $150 million Abacha's loot to Nigeria. And Buhari apologizes to Rivers people over political crisis. It's a pleasure to have you join us on News Now. I'm Tamilore Akinkolye. President Bola Tinubu has challenged his cabinet members to change the narrative of Nigeria through effective service delivery. Speaking on the last day of the three-day cabinet retreat held in Abuja, President Tinubu urges ministers, civil servants present to bring about economic prosperity for the people of Nigeria as captured in the renewed hope agenda of his administration. This news reporter has more details.
The seriousness of the task at hand could be seen as the president reels out the deliverables after he had earlier directed the reactivation of the presidential delivery tracker to empower Nigerians to track the implementation of projects across the country in real time.
The responsibility we bear are not just titles. They are hope and aspiration of millions of Nigerians. You might be ready to forget about the rest of the world. But as a Nigerian, let's go out there. Let's bond together. Let me remind you that you are not here to make excuses. Neither am I. We must put aside personal ambitions and focus on the progress of our nation.
In his closing remarks, the Secretary to the federal government highlights the takeaway for all present as everyone is expected to contribute to the actualization of the goal to the national prosperity.
Revitalize a roadmap for the steel industry. Revive power plant projects that have been previously paused, including the Ajaokuta Steel Plant. Engage with OPEC to increase Nigeria's crude oil production quota. Drive investments into upstream petroleum sector with clear targets while making provisions for sanctions for non-performance and inefficiencies. 5. Focus on education, health and social development as essential pillars of development. Here, one were to open up the sports sector for business by attracting infrastructure incentives and investments.
Achieving the president program for the country will require the collaborations of the political appointees and the civil servants who drive policies through various ministries, departments and agencies.
Civil servants have a big role to play in the delivery of the promises of this administration to its citizens. And so the onus is on us as civil servants to step up. We must step up in whatever it is we're doing to ensure that we do not slack. And I'm glad that both the permanent secretaries and the ministers are signing the KPIs with Mr. President. So the civil servants, it means that the civil servants have been joined in that delivery process. And so we must all work to ensure that the promises are delivered to Nigerians.
At the end of the 4-year mandate given to Mr. President by the people, it will be clear whether he has walked the talk with his team.
President Bola Tinubu has expressed his appreciation to France for the return of $150 million stolen from Nigeria by former head of state General Sani Abacha. Responding to the jury news, which was delivered by the Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs of France, Catherine Colonna, at the presidential villa, the president commended the strengthening of bilateral relations between Nigeria and France. On a part, the French presidential envoy conveys the goodwill of President Emmanuel Macron and expresses the readiness of France to expand mutually beneficial collaboration with Nigeria across multiple sectors. She also used the opportunity of the visit to extend a formal invitation to the president to attend the forthcoming Paris Peace Forum. And in Rivers State, Governor Siminalayi Fubara has apologized to the people of the state for what he called regrettable anxiety following the political crisis that rocked the state earlier this week. Governor Fubara also thanked President Bola Tinubu, Rivers elders, and his brother governors for their intervention. The governor said the event, from the fire incident at the State Assembly complex on Sunday night to the division in the House, and his actions were aimed at restoring peace and stability in Rivers State. He added that as a man of peace, the advancement of the state is his primary concern and that no sacrifice is too much for him to take to achieve the objective. And still on political crisis in Rivers State and godfatherism in Nigeria's politics, political affairs analyst Adewale Ajadi says the only possible solution to the face-off between politicians in Nigeria is the establishment of constitutional chain where every state has a subset constitution. Ajadi also added that the absolute control, the craft of the state in the country has been hijacked by individuals and it has caused systematic damage to the nation, leading to the reduction in participatory level of individuals in politics.
Ultimately, we have not been honest with ourselves. And that is that the craft of the state has been hijacked completely by individuals out of sheer power, sheer arrogance, and daring do. That's the truth. And because one has worked well or seems to work better than the others, does not mean that this is not a total and abject destructive process, this so-called godfatherism. I think that and we have seen it also lead to what happened in the presidential elections, let's be honest, because it's the governors that made the presidential election exactly the way it is. I mean, we have a popular candidate that won on all levels that we're talking about legitimately. That's not what I'm disputing. But the internal politics of the APC, it's very clear that's what.
That's true.
Yeah. So let's be clear. Let me move to the positive, because I can go on about this. It's so corrosive and so damaging, ultimately. And it has nothing to do with the individuals, but a systemic damage is being done to this country. Because ultimately, the participatory level of people is going to continue to diminish as a result of these incredibly reckless fights between men. You have cut out 50% of the population, and the rest 50% is spending its time just doing a pissing contest. And the one that is the most ruthless wins. And the one that is most ruthless continues to win until they fight till the end. And then that one becomes more ruthless than the other one.
Exactly.
And there's so many parts of that we're not surfacing. I think what we need to do is get a constitutional change that means that every state should have a subset constitution. And in that constitution, the rights and responsibility and accountabilities needs to be set up so that the House of Assembly can act independent, have resources independent of the governor, and be able to ensure that the governor is accountable to as best as is possible, that the judiciary is able to act independent of the governor, that the local government elections are held regularly and they are independent of the governor. Because what we have is governors that become incredibly out of control. And without naming names, there are governors that funded a lot of the conflicts in the Middle Belt from the resources of their state, even though they are far away from the Middle Belt. There are governors that have been funding conflicts in different parts of the country for their own political gain. This is not acceptable. We can't continue this way.
As the House of Representative committees hold their inaugural meetings, service delivery to the people they're representing government has been top of their agenda. Speaking with journalists at the National Assembly Complex in Abuja, members of the committees on petroleum downstream, sustainable development goals, and national population pledged to perform their oversight functions to meet the yearnings of Nigerians. This next report has more details.
Taking the lead, the chairman of the House Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream says his committee will focus on the objectives that would help the federal government recover up to $20 billion.
This committee will legislate for energy security. This committee will carry out its function in all with high level of professionalism in the petroleum sector. We will focus on economic transformation, accountability, institutional reforms, and revenue recovery and generation, with a specific goal of helping the federal government to recover the over $20 billion revenue from the sector that have not been remitted.
The 2024 population census, which has suffered postponement, is needed to ensure accurate data for planning and development of the country, which the Committee on National Population will be looking into.
We have before us an onerous task, and I want cooperation from every one of us. I've interfaced with these two agencies in their visit to my office, and I've made them to know. But with although there are still going to be a session where they have to come before this house to come and do presentation, because for some of us that are speaking against, I think if they listen and hear them, you also know that the census budget and census preparation, they've gone over 80%.
As the country is still falling short in critical pillars of sustainable development goals, the Committee on SDG will have to monitor government programs to accelerate the goals in line with the UN resolution.
As at the last report, we are still very far behind, in achieving these goals. And that is why it is of importance, to us in the country, that all the goals, if we are serious about development, must be prioritized. As we speak, we still have about 20 million children that are of school age that are out of school. We, as legislators, we have our responsibility through legislative intervention to accelerate, the attainment of this set goals.
Nigerians are hanging in there with the hope that their representatives in government will work to give them a country of their dreams.
Educating children on life-threatening global crises like climate change has helped in reducing its impact. Speaking at a capacity-building initiative for media practitioners organized by Save the Children International, experts say that getting the children involved early enough is a novel idea as captured by the Generation Hope campaign, while the media should also play a crucial role in confronting climate change head-on.
I think it's not only enough for us to discuss the issues, to come up with communicate, because it is a well-known fact that in this country, you might bring the best brains, you might come up with good ideas. We have all the policies and so on and so forth. We will publish all those policy ideas that will better the lots of the citizenry and the country, and of course in addressing the climate change. But at the end of the day, those communiques will only be on the newspapers. More need to be done in terms of action, particularly preventive measures, rather than talking. We should walk the talk.
Yeah. So there is need for children to, they should be, it's like this kind of readings. Children should be taught this kind of readings about climate change, so that when they get home, and as they grow, they will be able to, they will put that thing in their mind and have it at the back of their mind that the effect of climate change. So I think it has to do with the roots now, because so many people are not aware of these things.
An aircraft carrying the Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabo crash-landed near Ibadan Airport in Oyo State. The minister had escaped what would have been a disaster as the aircraft crash-landed on the runway on Friday night at the Samuel Aduke Akintola Airport. Meanwhile, the federal government has commenced investigation into the incident. The spokesperson of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Chiji Oketumbi, says no casualty was recorded and investigators from the bureau had been sent to the scene scene of the incident, promising to provide further details as the story unfolds. The new chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ola Olukoyede, a few days ago announced a ban on sting operations within the agency. The move is unconnected to the arrest of 69 students from Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, for internet fraud. While 58 students have been released according to the EFCC, there are concerns about the potential misuse and unintended consequences of sting operations. Speaking with TV360, Oluwaseyi Fadaini, security investigator and intelligence analyst, says the ban on sting operations by the new EFCC chairman is a welcome development for several reasons, as it helps protect the right and reputations of innocent individuals who may be wrongly targeted in sting operations.
For this case of EFCC, I see it as like it is quite unfortunate and unprofessional, because for you to do a sting operation at night, at the end of the day, you see that you don't have the needed intelligence and you are carrying out sting operation. Look, for instance, Hush Puppy. The FBI have been profiling him. They've been on his case for about 5 years before they now arrested him. So they've been building up intelligence about him. So for the fact that I have laptop at home, or you see a young guy with earrings, with laptop, doesn't categorize him as a scammer or a fraudster. So I think it is long overdue that the EFCC put an end to the sting operation. Assuming they have credible intelligence, like it would have been worthwhile. But you don't have intelligence on something, you just carried out sting operation. At the end of the day, you find out that like there was no crime, like there was like these people are innocent, then you now start apologizing. So yeah, it is a dent on the image of the agency, and I think it's a welcome development by the current EFCC chairman to ban a night sting operation.
A stern warning has been issued by the U.S. to citizens in Nigeria, saying there are elevated threats to major hotels in the larger cities of the country. The U.S. Department of State, in an emergency information, added that their citizens should exercise vigilance at major hotels, be alert of their surroundings, keep a low profile, and review the travel advisory for Nigeria before checking into any hotels. However, the advisory says the Nigerian security agencies are also working to counter the threat. And in preparation for the upcoming November 11 governorship election in Kogi State, the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Muritala Ajaka, has extended his campaign effort to the areas in the state that have been plagued by insecurity. Ajaka, who drove through the bad roads with his campaign team, addressed the residents, offering them a message of hope and transformation. Yeshua assured the people that the era of insecurity, substandard roads, and neglect will come to an end once he takes office as the governor of the state.
This is a big community. They don't have access to road. So the only solution to this insecurity in this town is to get this access road done. And I promise them, by the grace of God, with their support, we're going to construct this road for them. It's not long. It's not more than 30 kilometers. Yes. Because as I'm coming, I set my speedometer. I've calculated it. It's just 31 kilometers, 31 and a half. I've told them, this is a farming community. You know what? The easiest way to create employment is by sending the youth back to the farm. And we're going to encourage them in that way like that. But the key thing is their road, this road. We have to get it done first.
No road in this community. We don't have water, no electricity, no social amenities in this community. Most of the schools that we have, primary schools, has been dilapidated. There's no teachers in primary school. As a matter of fact, in this community for the past 6 months, there's nothing like primary school anymore. So in terms of security, it's a very serious situation in this community. We cannot sleep with our two eyes closed in this community. And now we want to change the scenario. But for us to do that is to kill behind Alhaji Muritala Yakubu Ajaka.
We'll take a break here, but still to come. Former Guinea dictator escaped from prison after gunmen stormed capital. Details of the story and more right after this break. Welcome back. Here's a quick recap of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu has challenged his cabinet members to change the narrative of Nigeria free fertility service delivery. Speaking on the last day of a three-day cabinet retreat held in Abuja, President Tinubu urges ministers and civil servants present to bring about economic prosperity for the people of Nigeria. He says there should be no excuse as the responsibility the cabinet bears is not just about titles, but the open aspirations of millions of Nigerians. We also told you that Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has apologized to the people of the state for what he called regrettable anxiety following the political crisis that rocked the state earlier this week. The governor said the event, from the fire incident at the State Assembly complex on Sunday night to the division in the House and his actions, were aimed at restoring peace and stability in Rivers State. He added that as a man of peace, the advancement of the state is his primary concern and that no sacrifice is too much for him to take to achieve the objective. And in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Limesword TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store and the Huawei App Gallery. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. And in business, the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority has announced that 50% BRT fare concession that was introduced in response to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's instructions will end on Sunday, November 5th, 2023. Sanwo-Olu had announced on August 2nd, 2023, a 50% fare reduction in transport fares on all bus rapid transport BRT routes. The agency asked citizens to be aware of the change and to make the appropriate preparations for the return of the regular transit fare rates that were in place prior to the August adjustment. And on the foreign scene, government stormed the main prison in Guinea's capital early Saturday and freed former dictator Musa Dadis Camara, leading to the closure of the West African nation's borders. The country's Justice Minister, Charles Alphonse Wright, made the announcement several hours after heavy gunfire erupted in Kaloum district of the capital, Conakry. Among the others who escaped were Claude PVA and Baus Gomu, who along with Camara had been detained on charges in connection with a 2009 stadium massacre that left 157 people dead. Guinea is among several countries to have seen coups since 2020, along with Mali, Burkina Faso, and this year Niger and Gabon. And still on the global scene, at least over 140 people were killed and several others injured after a devastating earthquake with a magnitude of 6.4 struck northwestern district of Nepal on Friday night. The earthquake's impact was felt as far as India's capital New Delhi and the national capital region over 800 kilometers away. Deputy Superintendent of Police Santosh Roka of Jakarta district said the death toll may rise as communication with many affected areas have been disrupted, and Jakarta in particular have recorded 92 deaths. And in entertainment, the Umos Award Academy has organized a discourse on the Nigerian comedy industry in Lagos. Speaking at the discourses, comedians and stakeholders in attendance says the industry would thrive better if everyone works in harmony. TV360 correspondent Chidi Igwe has the rest of the story.
It was a large turnout of veterans, upcoming and rave of the moment in the stand-up and skit-making genre at a discourse on comedy where diverse issues affecting the industry and ways forward are being examined.
Great in Nigeria.
Veteran stand-up comedian Benga Adinka speaks on the future of the Nigerian comedy industry, highlighting its prospects and also advising comedians to stick to their style.
My advice to those who are here now is to stick to your strength. Don't say, just because Taoma and Wasabi are hammering so much, does not mean that you should drop that USP that you have. and say, oh, I want to be a skit maker now. That is bound to make you fail. Stick to your unknown style.
A popular skit maker and actor, Adebowale Adebayo, also known as Mr. Macaroni, says disputes are natural in every industry, but collaboration is key to the growth of the industry.
This content creation thing, I also want to make it from here. I love it. You cannot be tired. You have to keep doing it. Because if that is what you believe in, if it is that craft you believe will put you there, will position you there, then you just have to be consistent. People might not see it now, but when you are consistent, when you continue to do it, they will see it.
From a top media executive perspective, comedy as an enterprise can only be sustained by passion, perseverance, positioning, and patronage.
The future is there, and the question is, are we ready? I dare say we are not. And the reason why we are not is simple. There are only 4 things that drive this industry that we are in. I call it the 4 P's. We have passion, perseverance, positioning, then patronage. This is an industry where the leaders have said the youth are not ready. Okay, no problem. They abandoned the political scene for them and they created a different way. Look at what they are doing in the music industry, look at what they are doing in entertainment, look at what they are doing in Nollywood. Are they ready or not? Those guys have charted a new course. And what has happened over the years, when we fail to celebrate them here, they have been celebrated globally.
Investors present reiterate their continued support to establishing talents in the comedy industry.
We have a vision, Mega Plaza, is to how we can uplift others, especially who have talents, skills. How do we tap that? So when Mr. Ushe came to us, he explained to us his vision and what he wants to do. It aligned with ours. And here we are. This is a start of something big. And we will see how we can even sponsor and collaborate with upcoming artists. Not with the artist who have 4 million followers, 5 million followers. Someone who has 5 followers. How do I help him to come up? That's the whole point.
One industry that has been disrupted by technology for over a decade is the comedy industry. And a discourse like this will help the stakeholders to keep abreast with the trend of a positive growth. Chidi Igwe, TV360 News, Lagos.
Finally, in sports, the Nigeria women national hockey team has qualified for the final of Africa Hockey Olympics qualifier after beating Kenya 1-0 on Thursday, having lost 4-0 to all South Africa in the opening Pool A match. And Dana Baba-led team managed to beat Zimbabwe 2-1 in the last Pool A game to book a place with Kenya, who came top of Pool B with maximum 9 points. The winner between South Africa and Ghana in the second semi-final will face Nigeria at the University of Pretoria on Sunday. Only one team from the male and female team will represent the African continent at the Olympic Games in France next year. And that wraps up our bulletin on news now. Thank you for watching. See you another time. Bye-bye.